Is Xbox actually saving physical games? So we just got confirmation that Xbox is going to have some form of physical to digital where you can put the disc in the console and you get like a digital license to play it. But you can still use that disc. Like if you want to sell that disc, if you want to give it to someone else, you can. But then if they use the game, then you lose that license. So I actually think that's a great idea. I actually have no problems with that. And I truly do commend Xbox for trying to find some sort of solution here where they're trying to take the best of both worlds, where you don't need to put the disc in the console every time, but you still have ownership of that game. Like, yes, it's a digital license, but you still own that physical game. You could still sell it. You could still lend it. So I think that's great. And I like how they're supporting past generations. But at the same time, if they come out with the Project Helix or whatever it's going to be called, and it either doesn't have a disk drive or they're just going to cease support for physical games, like they're not going to make any more physical games. Like, yeah, I guess it's better than PlayStation for what they're doing, but is that really a win? Like, it's still them abandoning physical games. It's them saying, okay, you still own these games that we already made, but in the future, you don't own any more games that are ever coming out. And that's really what I have a problem with if they end up going that route. So I can't imagine it's going to be worse than PlayStation, where PlayStation is like just a complete PR disaster. Like, they're being cartoonishly evil at this point. Like with Xbox, if they came out and announced the Helix is not going to have like new physical games, there would be a lot of pushback and it would be deserved, but I don't think it would be nearly as bad as PlayStation. But as someone who's primarily used PlayStation for over a decade now, I'm not getting PS6 because I don't see the appeal of it. The main reason I've been playing on PS5 is because I want physical games, and on PC, you really don't have it. Yes, PC is objectively better in terms of how games run and look, but there's not really many physical games on PC anymore, while PS5 has still had them. So now with the PS6 probably being over $1,000 and not supporting physical games, I just don't see a reason to get it. So I'm very open to getting an Xbox. Like, I've really had no reason to get an Xbox for a long time just because they don't have exclusives anymore. And it's basically the same hardware as the PS5, except you get less exclusives. I prefer the PS5 controller. I've overall just liked PlayStation better. If Xbox goes the same route where they're not going to support new physical games, I don't see a reason to get an Xbox anyway. If they do come out and say, we are going to still support physical games, like new physical games, I am strongly considering getting an Xbox. It depends on the price, it depends on a lot of factors. But if that's the only next-gen platform where I can still play physical games, I will heavily consider getting an Xbox. And yeah, I know Switch 2 obviously still going to have physical games. But for a lot of games, I'd rather play them like on other consoles or other platforms, just because the Switch 2 versions, even though they've been pretty impressive, like it's still obviously better if you play a game on PS5 compared to Switch 2, especially depending on the game. Something like the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I played it on Switch 2 because I valued the portability of it. But with a lot of games, like for example, like a shorter story game, something like under 15 hours, I'd rather just play it on my TV. I'd rather have it run and look better. So I still think the Switch 2 is great, but I would rather have the better version of it, especially as we go into the next generation where the Switch 2 is just not going to hold up with the PS6 and the Project Helix in terms of just raw tech. Like, it's going to be far behind. It's going to be basically like the Switch compared to the PS5 and Series X. And it's basically like a full generation back, or I should say a generation and a half back. So I've been thinking a lot about what Xbox is actually going to do here. Are they actually going to continue making physical games? And there's a couple conflicting things on this. One is that the CEO of Xbox said how she knows that a lot of people still love physical games and was talking about how there's strength to it. But on the other hand, I think she was actually asked if the next Xbox is going to support like new physical games, and I don't think there was an answer. So that's what concerns me. It could just be that they're waiting for like a big reveal to do this and have it be like a big moment to win them the next generation. So that's definitely a possibility, but it also could just be that they're waiting to reveal that either it's not going to have a disc drive or they're just not going to have new physical games. If I had to guess, I think at the very least the next Xbox will have the option for a disc drive, especially if they're really pushing this physical to digital. I think it would be kind of weird to announce that and then just completely abandon any sort of disc drive. So I think they will have at least an accessory for it or something, or a version of the console with it. But for now, Xbox is in a lot of people's good graces. Like, there's been no reason for most people to have an Xbox for a long time. The only people pretty much buying an Xbox at this point are people who just exclusively game on console and just prefer the Xbox for whatever reason. Maybe they're a casual gamer, they're just used to Xbox. Maybe all their friends are on Xbox and it's just easier for them. But no one's buying the Xbox for exclusives at this point. So if Ashish Sharma is seeing just the complete disaster that this has been for Sony, like it's been over a month now, almost 2 months now, and every single post that PlayStation makes has people pointing out how they're getting rid of physical games, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So if she sees this and then decides, okay, like let's see what the reaction is to having this physical to digital system, and people have loved it. Like, I've been looking on social media, like most people are very happy about this. So if she's seeing how many people are saying that they're going to consider getting an Xbox now, how positive people have been on Xbox for really the first time in a while, because most Xbox news I've seen for a long time has just been overwhelmingly negative. That, again, like I've said, there's not really much of a reason to have an Xbox. There's been price increases. There's issues with Game Pass, with the prices of that going up. So if she just pushes Xbox to continue supporting new physical games, I think that wins the next generation. And you might say, well, not that many people still buy physical games, so why is that going to close the gap between Xbox and PlayStation, which is just really drastic at this point? And I think the next console generation is going to be very different from all the previous generations, in the sense that I don't think these are going to be affordable consoles. Like previously, obviously, consoles have been expensive, but they've been affordable for like a Christmas gift or something for most people. Like, especially like look back 2 generations ago with the PS4 being $400. Like, that sounds very reasonable. Even the PS5 and Series X being $500, like, yeah, that's pricier, but spending that on a system is just a much easier pill to swallow than potentially spending $1,000, $1,100, maybe even $1,200 on the next console. And to that point, I think a lot of people are just going to be pushed to buy a PC. Because yes, a PC, like a good PC, is going to be more. Let's say you're spending a couple $100s more on a good PC. Especially with physical games going away, you're going to save a lot of money anyway, not having to pay for online, getting cheaper prices on games. And it's just not going to be as easy for a lot of people to either save up for a new console or to even want to spend that money on a new console. We've just seen prices of RAM skyrocket, the price of memory skyrocketing. And I think at some point it will correct itself. Like, AI, in terms of what we think of it today, is still relatively new. Like generative AI, like being very easy to access, has been around for 4 years now, almost 4 years. And I just don't think these companies have adjusted yet. I think eventually things will start to even out and we may see prices go down at that point. However, I'm not an expert on that, so I just don't want to say that definitively. But also just being in a rough economy right now, I think these consoles are, I think it's going to be a very hard buy. So I think you really need to try to keep as many consumers happy as you can. And that's why it's just so odd to me why Sony's doing this. Like, it's not odd to me because I understand it. Like, I understand they want a closed ecosystem. They want more money from each game. So I understand it in that sense. But they knew how bad of a PR disaster this was going to be. And if what they say is true, where truly most of their money is coming from digital games anyway, then what's the point of just making a bunch of people angry and not wanting to buy your consoles anymore? And it's because it's not really 15%. They don't like to tell you that most games are digital only because most games are smaller titles that don't have physical releases. Plus, a lot of people buy games secondhand, so those aren't going to be reported in sales. But I really hope that this is one of those like too big to fail situations where the thing that's too big to fail actually fails. Because not only is Sony getting absolutely obliterated from a lot of their longtime fans, but they're giving less reason to buy it, especially when you compare it to Xbox. Like, let's say they're the same price and you can still use physical games with Xbox. Like, that's a big reason to get that, especially since you can play any Xbox game ever made on it, or most of them, or any Xbox game from previous generations. While with Sony, your physical collection that you may have had since you were a kid is just completely useless now. It's not like this console's going to be $500 or even $600. So it's not like someone might just say, well, I don't like this, but the price isn't that bad, so I'll get it. I truly hope that the PS6 fails. And I've said this before, but Sony is not too big to fail with the PlayStation. We saw it with the PS3, where it was coming off the most successful console of all time. And the PS3 for a long time was not doing well. Like, yes, it ended up finishing strong because they lowered the price and got their act together, but out of the gate, it was really rough for PlayStation because they decided to charge $600 for the console. And to their credit, it wasn't like they were just overcharging to be greedy in that sense, because PS3 was actually really powerful. It was just a lot harder to develop for. But Sony realized that they just couldn't compete with the Xbox 360, which might not have been as powerful, but it was easier to develop for, had a lot of great exclusives. Most importantly, was a lot cheaper. And then you also had the Wii, which obviously far less powerful, but a lot cheaper, and was going for something else. So that's when people say, well, PlayStation's too big to fail, PS6 is going to do great anyway. That's what I'm saying, okay, maybe it will, but also maybe it won't. Like the PS4, when that came out, it was a huge success because they seemed to learn from their mistakes with the PS3, and they launched it cheaper than the Xbox One. They really promoted physical games, like they promoted ownership of games. And then with the PS5, it still sold well, even though the PS5, like there were issues like with there not being many exclusives, but the system itself, like it launched at the same price as the Xbox Series X. And a lot of people were also expecting there to be more exclusives. Like obviously it came out in 2020. There was the whole global pandemic going on at the time. So I think a lot of people were understanding of why the first couple of years were slow, but then it really didn't get that much better. Like exclusives this generation have not been the best, or there haven't been that many, I should say. So not only that, like you're already having a lot of people who aren't happy with the PS5, and now going on to the PS6, people are going to be even more unhappy. I don't think it's a guarantee that the PS6 fails, but I definitely think it's more likely than people think. And especially if Xbox is actually serious about winning this generation, I think they could definitely beat PlayStation. I would also just love if it got to a point where Xbox was just beating PlayStation so bad that they just went back to physical games. Would that ever happen though? I don't know, for a couple of reasons. One is that I think they're just going to try to make their money back, just having games be more expensive on digital storefronts, just being able to make more money per game. Plus, a lot of people just might not go back even if PlayStation did that, just because they already feel burned from them and they don't want to support them anymore. But then you could also say, well, this is just a vocal minority. This isn't how most people think. Most people are still going to stick with PlayStation over Xbox. And you know what? That might be the case. I don't want to act like this is like a done deal that Xbox will win if they do this. But again, this is something I've said before. What do you have to lose at this point? You've been losing to PlayStation literally every single generation. The only generation where it was even close was the Xbox 360 versus PS3. So maybe learn from your mistakes and see that you're not going to compete with PlayStation if you do the same thing as them. That more people are already just going to buy PlayStations because they're already loyal to the company. They're already used to it. They already like the series on there better. So try something else out. Like, you already did a good thing with this, with trying to combine the best of physical and digital games. Because I don't think digital games are a bad thing on their own. I think it's better to physically own games though. So now they just need one more thing to add on to this to keep that goodwill going. Because if they come out and say, okay, we're going to have a disc drive, or we're going to have a disc drive attachment. You're going to be able to play games from previous generations, but we are not going to be producing brand new games for the Xbox Helix. You're going to have a lot of people who were maybe looking forward to buying an Xbox because of this, who are just not going to buy it anymore because they're going to feel like it's just too little, too late, or something like that. And you also got to think, like I think I mentioned this earlier, that Xbox knows how many people are upset about this decision from Sony, and they're seeing the PR disaster. It's like the easiest one ever to come out and saying you're going to continue making physical games. But anyway, that's just my take on all of this. If you want to hear my other takes on this, if you support physical games, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.